Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
It's now legal, it's now regulated. Some of you know that in my capacity as state treasurer, I've been pushing very hard at the federal level for clarity on the banking rules with the U.S. Treasury. As you know, the U.S. Treasury issued so-called guidance that was supposed to help commercial banks better meet the needs of what I say is a legal and regulated industry in a number of states. And in turn, what happened was when the Treasury issued their guidance, it created more confusion and caused a number of banks to actually pull away from their marijuana banking relationships. The concern on the part of banks, of course, is they are regulated by a number of federal agencies, and they also have federal banking charters that are at risk if they do anything in opposition to what the Treasury sets as guidance. Long story short, the guidance basically put banks in the position of regulating individual marijuana clients to ensure that product wasn't sold to minors or shipped across state lines. Those are very onerous burdens that are not put on other legal and regulated industries. And so regretfully, commercial banks started to back away. I'm very concerned about that issue as treasurer. I think it creates a public safety issue, number one. I don't like the idea of people having to deal in large volumes of cash. And number two, from the industry perspective, it increases your costs in a number of ways and increases the hassle factor. And if more and more states are going to be put into a position where it is a legal and regulated industry, we need to be able to regulate. And you can't regulate an all-cash business as easily as you can a bankable industry. So it's a win-win for everybody to have it be bankable. But that's a very narrow sliver of the issues that you're experiencing as a nascent and rapidly growing industry. And I wanted to better inform myself on the totality, the bigger picture, what it means on the streets, what it means at the industry level, and how I could be of most help if I am elected mayor of Portland. If the federal government cannot clarify through the U.S. Treasury banking rules that make it feasible for the banking industry to commercially bank your industry, it's not going to happen. Right. So then the question becomes, are there other options? I've been toying with a group of people who I would describe as interested parties here in the state of Oregon who are looking for creative alternative solutions in lieu of the federal government taking action in the near term. We all assume that the federal government will eventually take strong actions. Our delegation, by the way, has been way out on the pointy edge of this. Congressman Blumenauer has long been a strong proponent of this. They are absolutely all over the U.S. Treasury on this and making their interests very clearly known. So I'm super appreciative of that. And your presence here today is just emblematic of that commitment. There are other models that, in my mind, have merit, and some have been tried elsewhere with minimal success. The co-op model, for example, to me is really appealing. It was tried at a smaller scale in Colorado and ultimately didn't work for a number of reasons, but I don't think I would discount that as a possibility. If you create a co-op between users who are actually pooling their own resources, accounting for their own resources, and effectively replicating a banking organization, and they are not doing demand deposits for the public at large, and are creating their own safety and accounting mechanisms, and they are still accountable to the government regulators. If you can figure out a model to make that happen, I think that's one possibility. If I weren't running for public office, that's an area where I would be actively exploring a possibility, because frankly, this is going to be a large industry, and banking happens to be a lucrative business. And if the federal government isn't letting commercial banks that have federal charters into the business, that's what's called a vacuum. And I'd rather you as an industry fill the vacuum than let, and I'll just put this in heavy air quotes, someone else fill that vacuum for you. And I'll let you fill in that blank yourself as to who that might be. So I'd like to see the industry take a proactive step like a co-op or another shareholder opportunity. I would want you to continue to work closely with your federal partners on this, though, because what I don't want to see happen is have 5 years from now have 10 different states with 10 different models, which will frankly make things even harder for the federal government to take decisive and federal action. So I do believe there are opportunities. Far be it for me as a banking regulator and a state treasurer to say you should in any way circumvent federal banking rules. That's not my point. My point is simply you've got a legal industry. We've all agreed it's going to be a regulated industry, and therefore, in my opinion, you are entitled to a banking relationship that allows us to safely transport and manage a business that otherwise is going to be a large volume cash business. And we have a right to be able to see the books, to be able to regulate the industry the way we promised the voters when they agreed to legalize the industry here in the state of Oregon.
A study out today found a new treatment for epilepsy is showing great promise. It uses an extract of marijuana. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
You're going to go to school.
From age 1, Hank Kovach suffered from severe epilepsy that could not be controlled with medicine. His mother, Megan, says in one day he could have more than 25 seizures.
I thought he was playing in the other room. He was not playing in the other room. He was convulsing, turning blue, and that's when I thought I lost him.
He's been such a good boy getting them all hooked up.
Last summer, she eagerly enrolled her son in a small trial designed to see if medical marijuana could help. Twice a day, Hank receives a marijuana liquid extract called Epidiolex. The medicine does not contain THC, the ingredient that can cause euphoria, anxiety, and paranoia. Megan says the change has been dramatic.
We instantly saw results. He was smiling again. We noticed the decrease in seizures. He was able to transition. And at this point, he was finally able to gain cognitive skills.
137 children and young adults, average age 11, were given the drug. After 12 weeks, parents reported the number of seizures declined 45 to 50%. Dr. Linda Locks of Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago is one of the researchers.
Some of the kids clearly became more verbal, better coordination. I had one child who started walking while they were using the medications.
Where's Harold the helicopter?
Hank's epilepsy was so severe, at age 7, he still cannot speak. But he's able to attend school and has not had a seizure in months.
My goal for him is to hear his voice, to hear him talk. We just want him to be happy.
It's been known since the early 70s that the active ingredient Hank received, called cannabidiol, can block seizures in animals. But how it works is unclear. What is clear, Scott, that much more research is needed, especially placebo-controlled trials.
Promising news. John, thanks for that.
Let's start with marijuana, because I was saying to you, I've never smoked marijuana, so I'm curious about what it does for you. And you describe it as an old friend who has never betrayed you.
I think, it calms me down. Yeah. And I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes. Now I don't. Mm-hmm. So I think substituting pot for cigarettes and alcohol, it was a smart choice.
You say about pot, my love affair with pot became a long-term marriage. It was by far the smoothest of all my marriages.
It's worked out so far.
It's worked out so far.
You think the whole country will legalize marijuana?
Yeah.
How long?
5 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the way it's going now, and it may, it may be quicker than that. Once all the so-called smart people see the money, see the bottom line, look at Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and say, wait a minute, we're losing out.
And not everybody supports the legalization of marijuana. Mm-hmm. Do you worry about the use of it because it's now become so widespread in states where it's legal for recreational use? Do you worry about underage children?
Well, underage children shouldn't be putting anything in their lungs. Mm-hmm. pot smoke or cigarette smoke or any other kind of smoke if they can help it. It's not good for their lungs and probably not good for their brains. Let their brains get a little smarter, before they start trying things. And I think that's why you need to be an adult to make those decisions.
The argument always against it was that it somehow leads to other kinds of addictions, whether it's cocaine or heroin.
I would be the first to say that's wrong. I think it eliminates other addictions for me, and I can only speak for myself.
And he confirms in the book, guys, that he did smoke marijuana at the White House. I got to get
on the roof.
Yeah.
On the roof of the White House.
I heard I did.
Yeah.
When you were a guest of Jimmy Carter, right?
Yes, I was.
How'd you get up on the roof?
I don't remember.
Nora, there was a friend of his that knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Willie, want to go to the roof?"
I go to the roof, and I said, "Why not?"
Any regrets, Mr. Nelson?
No.
No. I think that's a great life. You can sit here at 82 and say no regrets.
No.
Yeah.
Lived a very full life.
Great to have you here.
Thank you, Charlie.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Very nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Right, Willie Nelson.
The name of the book is called It's a Long Story. It's available wherever you like to buy your new books.
Freedom fighter, we must unite, fight the power, the time is right. 'Cause we are the children of the earth supreme, pursue our right to the hippie dream. We got to free the weed, take back the plant. We got to plant our seeds. Take a toke. My sweet sativa sister. Oh, I'm talking freedom now. Policeman in the sky, arrest my brothers and sisters for getting high. In the prison, they rocked away. Just you wait now, we'll have our judgment day. We got to free the weed, take back the plant. We got to take the lead, take back the plant. Oh, yeah, whoa, whoa, whoa. Take back the plant, take a toke. Oh. Take back the plant.
We roughly estimate that about a third of the people are receiving letters of recommendation and approval for primarily emotional or mental problems. And that cannabis is a unique psychotropic in this context, in that it has effects on both cognition and affect that also are inextricably connected with different kinds of physical functioning. For example, with anorexia, people get inadequate nutrition because of their anxiety causing suppression of the appetite, and that when they receive cannabis, the nutrition is improved because the peristalsis and the spasm is relieved, peristalsis is promoted, so also evacuation, which then produces improved mood and improved functioning. With regard to cognition, this also includes people with thought disorders, and you might find this kind of unusual, but there are certain aspects of cognitive functioning that cannabis helps, like suppressing or decreasing obsessive thinking, and also paranoid ideation and paranoid delusional thought. Interestingly, the short-term memory loss that people experience when they acutely medicate with usually inhaled cannabis, they can't hold a paranoid delusion long enough. And the same goes for obsessive compulsive disorder, because they can't keep up this string of pathologic associations. Also, the modulation of affect also affects the cognitive behavior. With decreased anxiety, this decreases the pressure for this abnormal type of thought. I believe that a new category is warranted that cannabis fits, and that's easement. If you look that up in the dictionary, you'll see several meanings. And one of the main meanings is giving ease, not the property legalistic kind of passage or going on to some property and getting certain rights, but easement as a calming effect. And this is what I believe cannabis more closely approximates. It's not the same as a benzodiazepine, which produces sedation and, ironically, depression. There is no free lunch pharmacologically. So people do not like the benzodiazepines and other sedatives for these kinds of reasons, and cannabis helps restore emotional responsivity in a normal way. And this also goes along with people with their paranoid ideation and disturbance of interpersonal relationships. With certain people with thought disorder, they note that they're more able to relate to others, which then improves their self-esteem and their social functioning. You're never going to find this written anywhere because of the psychiatric literature being horribly biased. And I've looked through the APA publications going back maybe 70 years, and it all is tainted with the antisocial element and calling it dysfunctionality or character defect or other kinds of pejorative, condemnatory terms. And it's all pill pushing. It's all medication. And to that end, we really don't know what is happening, and this extends not just to psychotropics, but I'm going to read you a short letter to John A. Kitzhaber, MD, Director, Center for Evidence-Based Policy, Oregon Health and Science University. And this is who I suggest if you want to contact to embarrass a little bit. On February 25th, I happened to view a panel presentation by your organization on C-SPAN on the cost-benefit study of different pharmaceuticals contracted by AARP. The sum total of that panel was they could not develop any cost benefits analyses, because in analyzing the pharmaceutical literature, they discovered it was all promotional rather than objective and scientific. So everything masquerading as science is not. So based upon California clinical experience with a range of chronic conditions, our findings indicate a significant advantage over other pharmaceuticals conventionally utilized because of improved quality of life and fewer adverse effects. Consequently, we request the opportunity to discuss our findings with you. Attached is a list of conditions. And guess what the response was? So I'm glad this is going over cable TV in the Portland area, and hopefully somebody out there in the viewing audience can give the center a call and ask them to include cannabis in their studies, and especially about the mental health issue. I would be fascinated to hear the response, but I won't hold my breath.
May I interject just very briefly? There's research I'm sure you guys are all aware of about the synergistic effects of the receptor effects of opiates and cannabinoids, where they basically are hitchhiking with each other, and much smaller doses of both medications create the same benefit with, of course, much less side effects. These are really remarkable findings, and I really regret that there aren't physicians who are just monitoring the reduction in the prescription patterns of their patients if they doubt that cannabis is useful.
You think that's new? If you read marijuana medical papers, in the Ohio State Medical Society meeting on cannabis in 1860, a Dr. Frommuller from Ohio reported that using an alternating courses of opiates and cannabis for treating chronic conditions reduced dependence on opiates. 1859 this was written. And so, you know, this is something new. No, we're talking about the takeover by Big Farm and ruining policy through their special interest money. And furthermore, the fact that this whole system, can I use my favorite phrase?
Oh, why not?
Monomolecular mercantile madness. This is all patent office driven. If you look back to what it was before the single molecule ascended to its role in current commercial medicine, you'll see that it's all secondary to what can get patented. And then they claim that the newly patented material is increasingly better, blah, 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 but then you see what's happened to the literature. It's gotten thoroughly corrupted and perverted so that you don't know what's happening. And here we have now a drug-seeking, drug-hungering public convinced that they need all sorts of combinations of patentable materials. And it's really sickening our society. And when they started directly advertising to the public, for psychotropics especially, ask your doctor. Social anxiety disorder, all these kinds of influences to influence you and their bottom line.
Any other questions?
A K2 medical alert: looking to ward off diabetes? You might try lighting up a joint. New research published in the American Journal of Medicine found a link between marijuana and blood sugar control. Weed smokers in the study had lower levels of insulin resistance. High resistance can lead to diabetes. The pot users also had smaller waistlines. That's another positive, because weight around the middle can indicate or be a precursor to diabetes. Scientists say the receptors in the brain triggered by marijuana may speed up metabolism.
And a groundbreaking study has surprising results. It says the active chemical in marijuana kills brain cancer cells. The study suggests that THC causes brain cancer cells to essentially eat themselves. In both studies with mice and humans, tumors exposed to the drug shrank. The study's authors say patients didn't suffer any toxic side effects, and the results could be used to develop new strategies for preventing tumor growth.
Its name is THC, and it was discovered back in 1964 in a lab in Jerusalem by chemist Raphael Mechoulam.
Cannabis had not been well investigated, which was strange. After all, it was being used illegally or illegally by millions of people, and yet we didn't know that much about it. So I thought it's a good idea to look at it again from a modern point of view.
In the lab, Mechoulam and his colleagues broke cannabis down and zeroed in on the chemical components that might be causing its effects.
We isolated about 10 compounds. Surprisingly, out of the 10 compounds we isolated, only one, which now is known as delta-9-tetrahydrocannabinol, in short THC, only one causes the well-known high. We tested it in humans, many of my friends, and we saw that the compound is effective as we expected it to be.
The identification of THC answered one question, but raised another. Just what did it do to the brain?
I had always assumed that people knew how marijuana worked. It surprised me, actually, when I began looking in the research literature that it was really clear that no one really knew how it worked.
In 1988, Lynn Howlett found the answer. She discovered that deep inside the brain, THC molecules activate a previously unknown network of specialized chemical receptors.
So that was proof that there is a receptor protein in the brain that can bind to the THC like a key in a lock.
It was very exciting because what that meant to us was we had a tool that could be used for studying, and other researchers could use it as well. And people could study where the receptor was in the brain.
Howlett and other scientists found the receptors in the hippocampus, which forms memories, the cerebellum, which controls movement, and the frontal cortex, where we think.
Here were these receptors that this chemical produced by a plant out in the world just so happened to have the precise combination to unlock. What an extraordinary thing that is. Is that why that receptor network existed, so that people could get high?
We don't have those receptors just so that people can get high smoking pot. Receptors are developed in neurons so that they can communicate with a chemical that the body makes.
So that was the logic behind going in and trying to extract a compound in the brain that would act just like marijuana did.
And in 1992, proof came that the brain does make a compound very much like THC. It was discovered by none other than Raphael Mechoulam, who named it anandamide.
We call it the brain's own marijuana because the compound that is made by the brain, anandamide, shares all the properties in terms of at the receptor level and cellular level that THC has.
It turns out that when anandamide is released in the brain, like marijuana, it affects such basic things as appetite, pain, and memory. And it plays a critical role in a sometimes underappreciated mental function, forgetting.
When I first heard that, it didn't seem adaptive to me to have a drug for forgetting. Memory, we understand, has great survival utility. You learn that that's a poisonous mushroom or that's a dangerous animal, and you stay away and you remember that. But why would forgetting be adaptive? And I asked Mechoulam this question, and he said, well, tell me, do you really want to remember all the faces you saw on the subway this morning? Forgetting well is almost as important as remembering well. Forgetting is about editing. It's about taking the flood, the ocean of sense information coming at you and forgetting everything but what's important. So life is not just about accumulating new memories. Memory can cripple us too. You have soldiers returning from war zones that are traumatized by experiences that, in effect, they can't unlearn. So if you could help them unlearn that, essentially a productive kind of forgetting, either with a drug or some other kind of regime, that would be incredibly useful.
Dakota to stay home. Don't come here, because if you walk through a crowd and we're smoking it, it's over. Oh, oh, deep water, black and cold like the night. I stand with arms wide open. I've run a twisted mile. I'm a stranger in the hands of the Maker. I could not see from the fog in my eyes. I could not feel from the fear in my life. From across the great divide, in a distance I saw a light. Jean-Baptiste walking to me with the Maker. My body is bent and broken. My long and dangerous sleep. I can work the fields of Abraham and turn my head away. I'm not a stranger in the hands of the Maker. Brother John, have you seen homeless daughters standing there with broken wings? I have seen the flaming sword there over east of Eden, burning in the eyes of the Maker. Burning in the eyes of the Maker. Burning in the eyes of the Maker. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep.
Being Seattle Hemp Fest and being the largest, most sophisticated cannabis policy reform event in the world, we try to make things up to you. You know, we're gonna do a countdown for the 420 here and all that stuff. But you know, I'll tell you, we felt so bad about the fact that Tommy couldn't be here that we decided to do something about it.
Trees are blazing, ease my mind. I like to puff light in the sunshine. Pulling soft calls and flipping lines.
You know, there's been this rumor floating around, and I'm gonna address it right now. I gotta tell you people that I decided to quit smoking. And then I realized, hey, I'm not a quitter. I want to thank some people. First of all, I want to thank all the vendors. I want to thank the Seattle Hemp Fest for having me out here. I want to thank all these volunteers who work so hard for no money. A lot of volunteers around here. I want to thank the police for keeping the peace. I want to thank some people who don't get a lot of credit and really deserve it. I want to thank those people walking around here selling magic cookies, brownies. They don't get the credit they deserve. I feel so at home in Seattle, I can't tell you. You guys are definitely the most energized pot smokers I've ever run across. I think it was appropriate to start here in Seattle because it's the home of the place where the young and the young of heart took to the streets and flashed a giant neon sign saying, "We're not putting up with this shit anymore. WTO, go home. Find an island." It's because there's an amazing propaganda machine in this country. Don't you think? I mean, it's a propaganda machine that makes us actually believe that we live in a democracy when we know we don't live in a democracy. I mean, it's a propaganda machine that talks about us living in a free country when we know we're not living in a free country. You're free to do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't go against what the government wants you to do. So how are we going to turn that around? I say things like this: the Seattle Hemp Fest are the way to turn this thing around. Every one of you people who showed up here today, you're making a statement, and I'm damn proud of you. And you know what I have to say? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think it will change. I think it will change. Thank you all for coming out here today. I really love my heart. Give me an H. Give me an E. Give me an M. Give me a P. Your turn. Outdo him. Give me an A. Give me an E. Give me an M. Give me a P. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the house band of Seattle Hemp Fest, the incredible Herbivores.
put us to the test. So it's time to exercise our rights and put on a hemp fest. And we'll educate the youth who soon will rule the land. 'Cause it's just a matter of time, and it's time to take a stand. 'Cause it's a losing battle, one that money can't win. Been going on for years, just keeps right on going. Like a Cold War with the commies, prohibition and the like. You can throw us all in prison, but you cannot win the fight. 'Cause it's a losing battle.
Because we're only talking about good things for good people. This man Jim knows. Take a good look at him. He's been through it.
This is Vivian McPeak at Seattle Hemp Fest here at Myrtle Edwards Park. I'm with THC TV and Seattle Hemp Fest, and we just had Woody Harrelson speak, enjoying some munchies now and some refreshments. We've got the herbivores, our house band playing. We've got so many people out there, I don't know how to count them.
Hey, Mr. Politician, time to wake up.
Okay, listen. Cannabis is just the tip of the iceberg, people. Okay? It's part of the great hoodwink of what they've done. Okay? Stoners domesticated the horse, invented the wheel. Stoners created blues, jazz, rock and roll out of Congo Square. Stoners created hip hop. Stoners created the personal computer. Okay? Stoners created the first secular music. All right? Stoners own magic and religion. But we've been taken away from that history. Okay? All religions came from cannabis. And somehow they've disappeared the fact that the burning bush, which gave Moses the inspiration, was cannabis. What else would it be? Soma of the Rig Veda, the oldest living religious document, the foundation of Hinduism and Buddhism, is cannabis. Ma is cannabis in Chinese. And that's where we get magi, magic, shaman. Okay, so we rule magic, the cannabis people of the universe. Okay, so let's take back the magic, man. All right, so I got my own little project now. It's called the Pot Illuminati. We're stealing the magic of the evil Illuminati and we're bending it to our will. And we just established a chapter here in Portland. These candles will be used by the Portland chapter of the Pot Illuminati. This is part of the sophisticated magic that we've manifested in the 20 years I ran the Cannabis Cup. So we're bringing the crew that did the ceremonies at the Cannabis Cup, and we're coming here next year, and we're bringing the founding fathers of the Pot Illuminati, Grandmaster Kaz, and Chief Rocker Busy Bee. Okay, these figures are so important because they created the culture and got no big money out of it. So they're very magical creatures. I was the first journalist to go to the South Bronx and interview all of the founding fathers of hip-hop. I got a book here, The Complete History of the First Generation. Is anybody into hip-hop? Anybody like a copy of this book? Okay. Did you know Abraham Lincoln was killed by his own party because he was going to bring the Southern congressmen back into Congress? The radical Republicans were about to lose control of Congress. So, through their double agents, they sent a Confederate spy, John Wilkes Booth, to kill. And they left the president unprotected. But they had to kill John Wilkes Booth. They couldn't let him be taken, just like they couldn't let Oswald be taken. Anybody want to know the real history, what really happened in the Civil War? Take that. All right. This is my adventure through magic. I came through experimental theater, living theater. I studied with Julian Beck, Judith Malina, Jasper Grootveld, the Provost in Amsterdam. I rode with the Merry Pranksters. I began my career as a counterculture shaman in magic in 1967 and have continued and created the Cannabis Cup and have done things on a massive scale. And this is the story of what I learned in that process. Anybody want a copy of this book? Okay. Do you want to know what the real story is? Who runs the banks? What's the real story behind the Wizard of Oz? What are these secret societies? What is the Illuminati? The Illuminati is just a chapter of Freemasonry. Freemasonry is the shadow that they created on the other side of fundamentalist religion. So it's just like Christianity, only it's, the same thing, only it's a different kind of a hoodwink. Okay? They aren't telling you the truth about magic and religion. They're hoodwinking you. So if you want to know the real story, what's going on with secret societies, who killed JFK, what does the Wizard of Oz really mean? What is the Golden Road? Anybody interested in this book? Okay, I only have one fiction collection. It's all about growing up in the late 60s and what we went through. And I like to give it to this guy because he shared that book with that bro. So thank you, brother. All right, listen. The Pot Illuminati only has one rule. We believe in no dogmas. We invite all cultures. We want the most beautiful rainbow spectrum of people, sexualities, everything, you know. We want it all to be a part of our ceremony. So we invite everybody. That's why there's 7 candles of the rainbow. That's why there's 7 different magic sigils on the candles. So we encourage you, but there's one rule. Don't hurt anybody. As long as you don't hurt anybody, you can do whatever you want in our culture, okay? And we respect all the religions, all the pagan religions, all the Freemasonry. We'll use their ceremonies and rituals because all these rituals of our ancestors resonate with us. They're important. Let's hang on to the rituals and ditch the dogma, okay? So we'll see you next year with the Pot Illuminati, and we'll be rocking this thing with 40,000 people on this hill, okay? Because we're going to bring magic and ceremony to Hempstock. Thank you. See you next year.
In between the blues, there are good days and bad days, with everything and nothing to lose. While the setting sun never sits, and the night has no limits. The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality. A need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. Like a grass fire.
In the unnatural society, been trying to maintain, while the sane appear to be clearly insane, with no way to explain. Outlasting the great lie, a sparking spark does my mind. Grass fire, pulling the sky, breathing in sativa's design.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. It's a grass fire.
The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality. A need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC. Dreaming of long times past, all that those times brought. Looking to the heart of tomorrow. Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns.
reminder, if you are interested in finding a medical marijuana permit, just look for us at that phone number, 800-723-0188, or contact us on the web at hemp.org. We're going to have tape shows for the next 3 weeks, but we'll be back here live on December 12th. I'm going to be down speaking at 3 events in South America, Expo Haze in Argentina, Expo Weed in Chile, and Expo Cannabis in Uruguay. But I'll be back here for the show on December 12th. Tune in next week. Here's Mr. John Cornett, and help us restore hemp. Good night.